Hello, everyone. Welcome again. Another video on our channel, The Inner Uplift. Um, Excited to be here again, just to uh, be with each other in one accord to talk about everything that's uplifting based on truth. Everything and anything, really. Um, and since this channel is based on conversations uh, grounded in truth, uh, as we mentioned in I'm not sure it was the video before the last one or the last one. Truth cannot be organized. That is a line that is based that's just fact. Truth cannot be organized, um, not through religion, not through societal standards, not through um, um, education, not through anything that's man enforced. Um, Truth cannot be organized, and I think I'm just applying that same uh, 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 principle or fact, so to speak, to this channel. I'm not moving in any organized manner. Um, this channel is heavily inspired by the work of Dr. Thomas Ora, metapsychiatry. Um, Metapsychiatry is one of the few things that inspired me to start this channel. So I didn't have a chance to show everyone this, but this is the book I mentioned, Beyond the Dream, uh, Awakening to Reality by Dr. Thomas Ora. This is where um, I found metapsychiatry, um, heavily inspired by the teachings of Jesus. Um, what drew me to a better understanding as to what it means to be at one with God through Christ consciousness. So this is pretty much where sort of where the inner uplift was, this is how it was kind of born. This is how it came about. This is uh, the the avenue that God used to bring me to this. But happy to be here again today for another episode, for another video, another episode. I'm not sure if I'm labeling them as episodes or, like I said, it's not really. It's just we come together, and we talk about things that are based on truth. What I'm using as my points to just start these conversations off, or what we could talk about, are just an archive of different things that I put together from what I was inspired by, what I was, um, um, my realization through my spiritual realization from uh, uh, the Beyond the Dream book itself, the PAGL, which is an acronym for Peace, Assurance, Gratitude, Love, which comes from metapsychiatry, the PAGL podcast, Beyond the Dream book, things that I've learned from just fellow spiritually driven um, um, handful of people. Um, my wife being one, a colleague of mine, the person that actually introduced me to this book that I just showed you, a colleague, a friend, Mike Harrigan. Shout out to Mike Harrigan. Um, I still remember that moment. I was actually reading another book, um, uh, Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. That was what my wife actually got me that. My wife got me, she introduced me to the work of Michael Singer when she was in the middle of her own spiritual realization, God showing her, what he has planned for her. And yeah, this is, we're all interconnected spiritually. And it started from her uh, uh, getting me that book, that particular book, Michael Singer. I was reading that, and Mike Harrigan saw me reading that book. Um, he was already very familiar with metapsychiatry, with the work of Dr. Thomas Ora, and he introduced me to Beyond the Dream. And things have just been. Remember the washer cycle? Yeah, things have been spinning since then. Washing clean, gaining more and more realization, gaining more and more spiritual understanding, gaining more and more of a deeper understanding of the teachings of Jesus. Um, and that's what's driven us here, um, to the inner uplift, and just part of what's driven us here. And yeah, I'm excited to be here again. Like I said, I usually I'm like just going back and forth, referencing to the archive, referencing a bunch of different things that I've put together through my whole process of spiritual realization, what I was able to type down and note. So I'll just each video, I'll just randomly pick one, touch on something. There are a few that have Bible verses with them. I have, and we could share via this, and we could look through a couple different verses. I highlighted something here because, I, you know, when we talk about spiritual realization, spiritual understanding, um, we're while as we live in the world, but we're not of the world. Um, Popular verse from Romans here, but then it's funny because this particular verse is talking about the renewing of the mind. But that's sort of what it takes is to us for us to actually recognize that we're asleep until we're not. And um, Romans 12, Romans chapter 12, verse 2, I highlighted this real quick because I just wanted to talk about this before we get further into the main bits and details of this particular video for today. It says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." Um, it, it all stems from that. It all stems from us the ignorance. Ignorance is pretty much every the enemy. Ignorance is the enemy. When we look at the Bible verse that talks about that describes the devil as a roaring lion seeking for who to uh, here to keep roaming around to kill, steal, and destroy. It's just ignorance. It's kill, steal, and destroy is the mind. It all starts from there. And as we've heard the popular, uh, the mind is the devil's playground and things like that. It all starts from there. It starts from the mind. We have the renewing of the mind, but that cannot happen until we recognize that we are sinners. We have to accept, and that's the sinner's prayer, to surrender. Um, we have to accept that we are sin, like we are flawed, we are ignorant. It's that recognition. If you don't nothing can change until it's been recognized, and I think that's the start of that sinner's prayer, recognizing that we are sinners and coming to Christ, to surrender. You have to recognize so you can let go, to surrender. Um, uh, it says then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, because once you recognize that, and once you're made aware, and you surrender and you let go and let God, everything changes. It all flips into a spiritual realm, and then you'll be able to attest. Now you've been put in the observer seat. Now you're observing what it is that God has already prepared for you. You're able to see, and then you'll be able to attest to His will. God's will is perfect, always. So there's no questioning of it. Um, just wanted to mention that, because I highlighted that Bible verse from Romans. Um, but one of the things I wanted to mention in this video here, not to again, there's no formality here. There's no organized pattern. I know, this being a YouTube channel, I'm not heading in the direction of finding something to react to. This isn't a reaction channel. I've seen a couple um, religious based, Christian based reaction channels. There's one in particular, that I watch from a young gentleman. I believe he's a pastor, and he's doing God's using him to keep people grounded in their spirituality, keep people grounded in um, their awareness of their faith. I'll put it that way. And he's doing amazing work. He's doing really great. He has a huge following of people that, just when I look at like certain titles and see what is he touching on, and then I'll sort of watch the video. I'll read through the comments. I'm seeing, just getting an understanding of just like, what where how people see religious based details and topics in society today. But at the end of the day, None of those things matter if we do not realize that everything and everyone is here for God, whether we know it or not. It's one of the things that I've heard Dr. Thomas Howard tell the students is everything and everyone is here for God, whether we know it or not. Most of the time, we're just ignorant to the fact that we don't even realize we're here for God. But again, um, renewing of the mind. It takes recognizing, it takes renewing. Once that happens, reformation happens. Everything is renewed. Um, I wanted to share something today from what I collected here about Jesus' teachings. Um, the difference in what it takes to be forceful compared to, I shouldn't say compare because we're not comparing. Um, what it takes to be forceful. Um, Instead, we choose to be influential, which is liberating. Um, so something that I jotted down here says the right understanding of Jesus' teachings is not repressive, but liberating because they do not say what we should think or should not think. They tell us what really is. And that stuck with me. I came across that again early this morning, and I was like, I want to touch on that today. Um, yeah, the right understanding of Jesus' teaching, and that paragraph starts with the right understanding, because Jesus' teachings have been around since, you know, we're talking about the most the, not popular. Popular is not the word. Um, the most recognized religious figure in the world. Um, and as we go into like the season of the holidays is one of those things. Again, thinking about that, it's like we talk about this figure as a man or as Christ, either as Jesus or as before becoming Christ, without and going through like just a whole bunch of different versions of understanding. Um, but I like how it starts with the right understanding of Jesus' teachings. So there are all kinds of understanding out there. There are all kinds of scholars and um, theologians, and they're all people who are well versed in being intellectual about Jesus' teachings. And is it the right type of understanding? Once you recognize that Jesus never came to force his will on anyone, once you're able to gain that awareness that dogma religion um, teaches us a different angle of what Jesus really did as far as how he taught. Once you recognize that it was more liberating, it was more, would you, the question was asked to the people he healed. The he gave you the room and the space for you to accept truth, which in turn means accepting him right in that moment. Once you understand that, then you're able to have the right then your understanding becomes right according to Jesus' teachings. Um, they don't say what we should think or what we should do. His teachings just always told us what really is, automatically. And the Bible is, you know, it's heavy with the parables, and you're, we're not to take it literally. We're not to take a lot of the parables, a lot of the different things that with the stories happening, not literally, but in this spiritual context of applying it. And you see that we could, most of what we're reading, we could apply it to our everyday life here on earth to help guide us, to help guide us to healing. So I wanted to just mention that, and because that's important to me. It's important to me uh, that I and I hope you know I hope anyone listening and anyone that's sharing this with me as in this channel. I hope that we could uh, gain the same insight of of what is right, what is right based on truth. I hope that that's where our insight lies, only solely based on truth, nothing else, not on opinion, not on what we think is right. We're not here to be right. We're not here to be right. We're not here to force anyone to think in any way. We're just here to let truth guide us to what is, what really is. Um, and like growing up Christian, um, you get this tagline that you're believer, the believer or non-believer, and that's something else in my readings today. Like it's one of those things where it's like as I gain spiritual understanding on a deeper level, I'm like, wait, there's I came to learn that you know believer, you're just creating contrast, in which leads to comparison, which is conflicted within oneself. Um, you go around and you say, I'm a believer. Oh, so you're letting someone know that you definitely believe, but it comes down to realizing that to believe and not to believe is the same thing. Because when, you know, let me just read this, if I may. To believe or to disbelieve is the same. In both instances, we're involved in struggling against the power. When we disbelieve in something, we are fighting against believing in it. Therefore, we are honoring it as a power. And I I sat with that for a long time. I was like, wow, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. let let truth just sit with it. Don't agree or disagree. Just sit with that and let truth just discern. Just use discernment to let truth guide you to see if it's truth to you. Um, it's and then in the Bible, there's if I'm gonna go over here to Matthew. Actually, we could get a use the scripture to help us gain a better understanding of what that passage that paragraph we just read. Um, because growing up is excuse me, growing up Christian, I said that a lot. Oh, as a believer, blah 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 blah. If I'm having a conversation about something as a as a Christian, as a believer is it's like you- it's almost it's almost like you're trying to reassure that you're definitely a believer because you're not a disbeliever. But you have to understand. You come to understand now. I came to understand that that's I'm conflict. I'm fighting against something when I say that. At mind you, at the same time, usually when I was saying that is I was always looking at God as separate from me, and I think that's kind of what drives that. The idea to be a believer, to believe in something is separate from you. Um, yeah. So let's read Matthew chapter 5 verse 39. I think it's what is where it is here. 539. This is all part of Jesus's teachings. Uh, there you go. Let me go ahead and share this right here. It's all obviously when in the Bible when it's the color red in the Bible it means it's all labeled for Jesus. Jesus's uh, teachings in the Bible. It says, "But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also." It, we've heard that before, turn turn the left cheek. But the first part of that verse is, "But I tell you, do not resist an evil person." Um, it's not really about resisting. It's about just overcoming evil with good. And I feel like I brought that up because that's where I tie in my understanding for the unnecessary means to the unnecessary means of going about saying believer or non-believer or disbeliever. Um, we just overcome evil with good, so you're not resisting anything. But to keep reassuring yourself that you're a believer means you're trying to actually resist the idea of being a disbeliever. Um, yeah, so it's just one of those things, right? A lot of different things based on my spiritual understanding that tells that the Bible reflects itself to help me gain a better understanding of what I have been conflicted by or just been misled by when it comes to um, the people using their own psychological authority because of their religious positions. Again, this is nothing against. I am not trying to bash any, you know, um, religious representative, any pastor, any deacon, anyone like that. But I think we just truth. We have to remember that we are just vessels for truth. We are that representative for truth together. Together. It's not about title. It's not about anything like it. Because once we put a title to it, then psychological authority takes over. Once we put the person in the position to say, you are the one that's going to present me truth, then psychological authority can interfere with that. Psychological authority meaning the person's own conditioning, the person's own um, um, mode of being can actually interfere with them doing the work to present truth as the only driving force for everyone's state of being in that position, in that church, in that gathering, wherever it may be. So that's what I know it's I know I had like a few different things. I started off talking about that contrast between or that force of resistance when it comes to believing and disbelieving, and then I brought up the Bible passage in Matthew saying, um, "But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn him to the other cheek." I was trying to use that to just tie in this idea of resistance to hang on to saying I'm a believer, and I'm definitely a believer, not an unbeliever. There's resistance there, um, and going to that Bible passage of the Bible saying, "Do not resist evil." Um, it's just do not resist. Just if you are just a vessel of truth, if you are just here as a beneficial presence to the rest of the world, you overcome evil with good. You would automatically be looked at as someone who is a light of truth that doesn't need to say they're a believer, that doesn't need to say they're a non-believer, that doesn't need to be late to add any tagline to themselves, that doesn't need to attach any of that to themselves. You're just automatically here for the good of God. Um, so I just wanted to bring that up, and to all my fellow Christians, active, non-active, or I don't know what you know. When I say Christians, I'm saying that based on Christ consciousness, not religion. Um, to all my fellow soldiers of Christ, yeah, just wanted to share that and see if that resonates. What do you think about that? Leave a comment. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what we think when we say, when we call ourselves believers. Um, I think I know there are parts of the Bible that say, we are to go out to the world, and the Bible has the word believer as believers in it. Um, but I just wanted to clarify when it comes to us using that as almost uh, a band or a tag or a label or just, something to show that you are the right representative for your faith. Now, I think, yeah, when I read and came to understand that to say to believe and to disbelieve, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You're just creating this force there that doesn't need to be there. Um, but if you just are working in truth, if you're just um, being here as a beneficial presence, as a vessel for truth, there will be no reason to create any force or any sort of contrast in any way, any shape or form. Um, what else? Let's look at something else here in the archive. Something we could talk about real quick. Um, I had a conversation earlier today, um, and it had to do with uh, the idea of um, worldly control. Um, Worldly control, and we were talking about how over, you know, since forever, we've people have tried to use the word lazy as this psychological control over. We try to do it with each other. We've tried to use that um, for as long as we can remember. Calling someone lazy, calling someone, um, um, saying someone has a tendency to be lazy about doing something that that you're supposed to be doing. And I learned um, a while ago now that wow, that doesn't exist. There's actually nothing like lazy. Like laziness does not exist. Um, it's a it's a psychological um, means to control the state of someone's mode of being at the time. So if you have um, a young teenager or something that the parents kind of want to get going, and they might not really, I mean, because if you really have a good relationship with a teenager as a parent, um, then there's a very low chance you would use the word lazy around them. Because when you have a strong connection with someone, um, and they're able to share a lot of how they feel, share their feelings and their thoughts with you, there will be no room to that word laziness will not exist. Because I came to learn that it does not exist. It's not a thing. When someone is presenting a state of being that makes them feel really low, makes them feel really, I don't want to say depressed, but it doesn't have to get there, but just really low, not really wanting to do much, not really having the energy. There's something else there. There's something else there that is keeping the person from expressing, from moving forward, from having the energy to just do the things that makes them feel at peace, that makes them feel that's gratifying to them, that's assuring for them, that helps them express love and joy and harm and be in harmony with everyone around them. It's not laziness. It's just that there's something that they're in a certain mode of being. To be lazy is this conditional word that man, this concept that man came up with as a form of control is an operational thing. It's pretty much saying you're not doing what I want you to do right now. So I'm going to label you as lazy. It's a label. Um, it doesn't exist. It's not a thing. It's just been a thing that people have used to hurt people for a long time. Laziness does not exist because the same person that I could call that word and call you lazy, um, if and I'm only just using that against you because you're in a certain state of being that you're either suppressing something, you're holding on to something, is weighing you down, and when you're weighed down, you're not really going to do much of a lot of things at the time. So then somebody sees you on the outside looking in and just calls you that. So that's what that is. The same person you could call that can do a lot of things that I can't do when they're in the right state, when they're in the right mode of being. They could do a lot of things physically, or just they could just express a lot of good things and do a lot of things that I may not even be aware of. I may not have the knowledge to do, or I may not, a lot of things. So what does that make me? I just labeled you as lazy because I found you in a certain state of being, and I just yeah. So I just wanted to share that. It was a conversation I had this morning when my spouse and we were having a conversation, and we just talked about how that's just another thing in the world that we live in that unfortunately is being used to just keep people under this psychological authoritative state. And yeah, I just wanted to share that, and that goes against being a beneficial presence. That goes against truth. Um, yeah, my fellow uplifters, man. Let's have these conversations. Let's bring these things to the table. We're all learning here. I'm learning. I'm constantly learning. As my spiritual growth is based on my open reception to taking in truth, to learning more and more. So the things that we talk about on here, I'm looking forward to once this channel gets to the point where we could just have conversations, talk about different things in the comments. I'm just looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to just because it's all part of our spiritual growth. That's what I'm looking forward to. It's all for the good of God, and that's the thing. I'm looking forward to the idea of knowing that we can we we can use this to reach many people, many people. All it had to do, all I had to do to be a beneficial presence was to connect to my Wi-Fi and get and and feel uplifted every moment that I can to do this, to just do God's work. And that's why we're here. That's why we're here. I have I'm happy I was able to get this um, Bible, the U version. I actually have the same app on my phone, but I was able to get it on here. I wish it was the standard, the revised international version, or no, I believe revised standard version. I'm sorry, revised standard version. I wish it was, but I think uh, it might be like a King James version. I'm not sure, but again, versions wouldn't matter when we're using truth as our guiding light to everything that we read from the Bible truth would actually be what gives us the understanding. So I'm happy I was able to get this. Um, we're gonna use this through, we're gonna use that through the episodes, through the channel as we talk about the teachings of Christ. I'm gonna keep going back to my references here from my archive from meta psychiatry. Again, um, please take the time to, if you like, to look into metapsychiatry. Dr. Thomas Ora. Just check this stuff out. I know I just showed the book early in the video. For the first time, I mentioned how I came to learn about metapsychiatry, or to learn about how I came to even read the book from my colleague, my friend Mike Harrigan. Um, yeah. So as we move forward, let's just let truth be our guide as we talk about everything and anything that just helps us continue being beneficial presences in the world. It's what we're here for. It's what we're supposed to do. Everything and everyone is here for God, whether we know it or not. I'm going to use that to end this particular video. Um, and let's talk about that in the comments. Let's talk about if how it feels next time you are having a conversation with somebody as a Christian, or as someone who grew up Christian, and you say, and someone asks you, "What's your faith?" and you say, "I'm a believer." How does that make you feel now that we've talked about to believe and to disbelieve being the same thing? Um, but not leaving it at that. Also understanding what that means, as in, there's no need that it what resistance it creates when we try to create the separation as to believe. To believe is to create a separation from something that you believe in, which you just gave it that same power to create disbelief. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that in the comments. Let's see what that means to us. Let truth be our guide. Again, this is another installment, another video, another recording for our channel here at the Inner Uplift, where we're here to just keep talking about truth and remain in peace, assurance, gratitude, love. Until next time, I bid you farewell and remain blessed.